It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs, and there you were.
Welcome to Hour 2 of Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We are broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios. The second hour is also brought to you by Extreme Exteriors. Our guest today is the president of the National Homeowners Advocate Group, Harvella Jones. Before we get back in our conversation with Harvella, I'd like to remind our listeners in Hour 2, we have a free resource for you, a news subscription, a newsletter that's published bi-monthly called What's New. A lot of the topics we cover in further detail, even from what we cover here on the radio show, is presented there. It's yours free for the asking. Give us a call, 952-922-2500. Ask for Courtney during the week, and she'll make sure that you start receiving that subscription. We have over 18,000 subscribers right now. And our guest, again, is Harvella Jones. And Harvella, we appreciate you being with us here for this the second hour here as well. And if you're just joining us, we've been talking to her about whether or not an HOA has the right to be able to foreclose on its members for non-payment. And Harvella, you are standing firm on the premise that you believe that it is unconstitutional.
Oh, yes, and it's just not my belief. It's also the belief of most everyone that hears what's going on. I mean, it is unconstitutional. And until the people vote on it, that's all we're saying. If the people want it, then so be it.
So you think that every homeowner association should be given a chance at their annual meeting to vote on whether or not they should be able to have the HOA foreclose?
No, I think
that's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, what I'm saying, they should be able to vote, but not that way, because we have problems with these elections.
Okay, well then, what are you saying? Is it from on the state level then?
Yes, because there is a bill out there, SJR 19, which would put it onto the ballot. That's how it's done. It's done through the Constitution, where the legislators have to get a certain amount from the House and from the Senate, and they put it on the ballot, just like they did reverse mortgages, and let the people across this state.
And then how many would have to vote on it for it to pass?
The majority, the majority of people in the state would have to vote on it for it to pass.
Majority in the state,
or the people voting at that?
Or
you mean in the legislative body?
No. Do you mean a majority of the people in the state, or a majority of those who vote?
A majority of those who vote.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's 20 that vote in 21, or 20 voted in, what I'm saying, the majority.
Harvella, I can't help but look at this in this way. I'd like to have the ability to have a statewide vote as to whether or not we had to pay our car payments every month, because I would vote against that. I would like to have a free car. How is what you're doing different from that?
Because a car doesn't want to foreclose. When you buy a car,
they'll repossess it. They'll repossess it,
but
which
the car
is similar.
company will foreclose.
They're not going to kick you out of your house.
The car company will foreclose. They'll
repossess
true.
and take.
You're talking about people trying to put you in the street.
I agree that housing is more important than car ownership. I was just trying to draw a parallel.
Well, no, you can't. There's nothing to compare with someone kicking you out of your home for non-payment of maintenance fees that may or may not even be necessary in a community.
Well, I would say that there are things that would compare, but let's get back to the Texas Constitution. You said that it is unconstitutional. I'd like to bring up something that I read and like to get your thoughts on it. Now, in Article 16, it's Section 50. It says homestead, the protection from a forced sale. And it says the homestead of a family of a single adult shall be protected from a forced sale. It says, except for, and then it lists the exceptions, okay?
Right, exactly.
And the exceptions, you mentioned this earlier. You mentioned purchase money. In other words, if someone hasn't paid
their mortgage,
paid the purchase price, they would be able to take the property back. If taxes are not paid, it says in number 3 that ulti of partition, in other words, resulting if there's a divorce proceeding and one person gets the property versus the other. But here's one that I think is very interesting and I think does pertain to a homeowners association. It's 5A. It talks about work and materials used in constructing and improvements. It says the work and materials are contracted for in writing with the consent of both spouses in the case of a family homestead, given in the same manner as is required in making a sale and conveyance of the homestead. In other words, if a husband and wife who own the home are asking people to do work, provide work, repair, maintenance.
It also says repair and renovation as well as new improvements.
And so in a homeowners association, the only reason they're asking for
money
and are able to do that is because there is common areas that all homeowners are responsible to make sure are maintained. And so an HOA is asking for that money to do that. It is an implied contract at the time when you purchase the home. So it seems to me that they would have the ability to foreclose. That would not be an exception.
All right. May I answer?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're mixing apples with oranges. This is a vendor's lien that you're referring to. The case law that I'm telling you about, Inwood versus Harris, specifically states in it that this is not a vendor's lien. It is a contractual lien. It's through a contract. Now, the contract that they're trying to say was between the homeowners and the HOA, which in that particular case may have been because it was specifically referenced on their deed, the mention of assessment fees.
But there is a contractual agreement with a homeowner when they purchase in an HOA. When my wife and I live in a townhome, for example, and when we purchased that townhome, we were agreeing to declarations and covenants that were written. And there are declaration and covenants on all pieces of property, whether it's in an association or not. And it doesn't matter myself as a buyer of a home. When I purchase that home, I am agreeing to contractually the declaration and covenants. And the declaration and covenants of the homeowners association says there's common areas that we need to maintain and keep in good repair, and there's a cost for that. So how is that not a contract?
That's not a contract. What you're talking about. See, every deed has in that deed has deed restrictions. It's already built in by your lien holder, your first lien holder. What you're talking about is the additional enforcement that the HOA wants to do with the CC&Rs, and that's attached, it's appended. Now, if you look at that document, you're not going to see your name signed at the end of it. That contract is between the developer and the HOA.
No. Harvella, when you sign your purchase agreement, you're agreeing to that document. Absolutely, you're agreeing to that document.
You don't. That document you're not agreeing to.
Yes, you are.
A contract. No. A contract is. I'm talking about a direct contract. This is what a contractual lien is: a direct contract, not something that's appended.
So
I
think, in all due respect, I think that you are mincing words. And that is, you're the one that's trying to create apples and oranges when there aren't any.
Not
Harvella.
Really.
I think
really.
so. Yeah.
Not really. No, not really.
A contract is a contract, and when you are dealing with the purchase of a property, you do not have the ability to pick and choose what was written in the declaration and covenants. I could, even if I weren't in a homeowners association, if the declaration and covenants of that property says there is a utility easement, I can't go in there tomorrow after I purchase the home and say, I'm going to rip out the connection to the city sewer and put in a septic service because that's my right as a homeowner. I have to agree to the declaration and covenants. That's basic real estate law in all 50 of our states.
Exactly, and I'm not talking about covenants.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm not talking about easement covenants and agreements that are part of our deed restriction, which is boilerplate language across all the states. I'm talking about, and especially, you mentioned that you have purchased a townhome. Townhomes and condos and single-family homes have different documents and different language.
They do, but what they have in common, Harvella, is that the Homeowners Association is providing services for which the members have to pay a fee. That's
exactly.
what they have in
no
common, and that's what we're talking about.
And no
well,
one has an
except
argument with that.
you did disagree with me on one point, and that was I said if I don't pay my monthly assessment, my neighbors have to pick up the tab, and you said no, that wasn't true.
No,
Tell me why
no,
that's not true.
Because that is not. No one has ever brought forth statistics to show that that's going to be the case. Because you know why? Nothing is 100% collectible. There is nothing out there. No
Okay.
Well, that's a different
issue.
That's a different issue, whether someone can collect something.
If I'm not paying for my assessment, and let's say my assessment in a townhome includes my water and sewer, it includes my trash and recycling, it includes snow removal up here in Minnesota, which is a significant cost. If I don't pay my assessment, I'm not paying my share of those expenses. Isn't that right?
Well, that's right, because in a townhome, in a condo, that is a different type of amenity which is shared through
Different
your
from
utilities.
what? Different from what?
Because your utilities are being shared. In a single-family home, you're not sharing utilities.
No, but you're sharing street lights. You're
no,
not
you're
getting
not sharing. Sometimes you're not sharing.
That's
what I'm
right.
talking about.
Well,
We're not talking about the sometimes. We're just giving examples of what are things that are shared.
That are covered in
Things that are
homeowners
shared.
associations.
There are different things that are shared. And what
That's
I'm saying
right.
is there's different ways that we handle it. First of all, you all are under the assumption that a foreclosure gets that money. Foreclosure does not get money from
No, it
these
doesn't.
HOAs.
It doesn't, but
Why
it gives the
foreclose?
HOA the opportunity to sell that property to recoup the money.
No,
that
they don't get it that way either. They get what the whole purpose. And I had someone under. Well, she wasn't under oath, but she was in a public arena, and she made this statement. One of the biggest advocates for the
what
other
was the
side.
statement?
And what she said is that they want to get the person out of their house so they can get someone in there that can pay. Now, what's
wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
You're going to foreclose? That wasn't the purpose of a foreclosure. That's not the purpose of why.
That's exactly the reason why an HOA forecloses. They don't do it
because they need the money.
They don't do it just because they want to. But one thing that we do need to do right now is take another quick break. Harvella, please stay on the line. We've got a very spirited debate with Harvella Jones, and I do appreciate your opinion on whether or not HOA should have the ability to foreclose. What do you think? Give us a call. You're listening to AM 1280, The Patriot, where you live with Gene and Tony.